is transcultural argument of the Rāmāyaṇa visuals through a comparative reading. Actually, I have been working on this paper since long time, and I published a complete paper only on the visual sculptures in the visual media, especially through iconographical study in 2000. The paper was published in Berlin. So here you may see some of the interesting articles by various scholars written for the past 2.5 decades. Now let me move into my main presentation. What's my problem here would be is that there would be 2 points to be discussed at the end of the paper. That is, one is relativism, and the next one is cultural relativism. What is relativism? Belief in changeable standards. The belief concepts such as right and wrong, goodness and badness, or the truth and falsehood are not absolute, but change from culture to culture and situation to situation. The second one is cultural relativism, judging cultures on their own values. The principle that the people should not judge the behavior of the others using the standards of their own culture, and that of each culture must be analyzed on its own values. Okay, now you see a terracotta image of 2nd century Common Era, Sunga terracotta. That's from Allahabad University Museum. It depicts the Sita Abhakaran. You can see that by 2nd century itself, how matured the terracotta image has been made by the artist. You can see the details very clearly, that a demonish man carrying a woman. The woman looks like a baby in the hand of the demon. And you can see that the abharnas of the Sita are falling down through the legs of the demon. So this is the, to me and to my knowledge, I assume this as the earliest Sita Abhakaran depicted in the art. And the next one is the Sita Abhakaran from the Asian Art Museum, San Francisco. That is from the Uttar Pradesh. The first one, the earlier one, you can see that he's physically handling Sita, as if like he's carrying a baby also. In the second one, the artist has deviates from that of the earlier one, because there is no humanly touch between Sita and that of Ravana, and the Jadayu is also present. But here at this juncture in the 4th and 5th century, was there such concept of Sita being carried physically and without touching? I'm sure that there was no such deviation between by that time, because after all these images should have been made after the Valmiki Rāmāyaṇa, because only after the emergence of the Tamil Rāmāyaṇa only the deviation happens, that Sita being not physically handled by Ravana. So the artist was able to choose his own way of depicting the image. There are many such images throughout Indian art. So the next one, we are almost like traveling from north towards south. We can take it like that. And this is from Patadakal. This Patadakal image is not really such a huge one. Maybe the size of the whole thing, it's in the pillar panel, depicting the whole scene of important scenes of Rāmāyaṇa. The size would be just 1 into 1 feet. And you can see that clearly they have given the inscription too. So it's from the Western Chalukyan dynasty. And we can see that how Sita is being carried away by Ravana in the last panel. So I'm not going to read all the other panels, because I would be then I would need to discuss the whole thing. Here, my main concern would be That is, the images in Boustrophedon way of reading, starting from left to right, then right to left, then left to right, and right to left. So it is like the way of reading goes like that. So at the right end, you can see that Ravana approaches Sita. Sita is being seated in her house. And the next one, the image is a little bit, immediately after Ravana, you can see that Ravana is putting her on the Pushpak Viman, and then he carries away. Though the image is too small to clearly read what has happened in the Chalukyan, Western Chalukyan art. Then moving to the third one, sorry, the fourth one, here we can see it in the third array. Ravana approaches Sita. Once again, the reading goes from the right to left, approaches Sita, and then Sita being carried away by Ravana, and then after he encounters the Jadayu. So each of the dynasty has its own way of depicting the Sita Abhakaran. So it is understood that the theme might have been very vibrantly treated by each and every region on its own perception with their own ethical concepts, because there is a whole lot of change between the Valmiki and that of the Kamban version of Ramayana that we are going to see in the next slide. So with these two examples, huge examples from the Virupaksha temple at Pattadakal and Kailasha of Ellora, that we can clearly understand that Sita Abhakaran was one of the very much notable and very well appreciated form of iconography in the Indian art. Because then after, you can see that especially after the Rashtrakuta image, that in the southern India, especially starting with that of the Hoysalas, that there are many images of Sita Abhakaran throughout Indian art. Okay, now I'm pushing out to Southeast Asia. This example, it is a little bit quite different for me when I read or compare it with that of the Indian version, because someone who doesn't have any idea about Ramayana might think that the couple is traveling happily for a weekend show or something. But except for the Jadayu intervention, the sculpture, how it has been depicted here is that it is almost like Shiva Alingana Murti, that Ravana carries Sita on a it's not Pushpaka Vimana. The Pushpaka Vimana has been completely redrafted to that of the Southeast Asian origin, and you can see that how Sita is in the lap of Ravana. This is one example, and the next famous one is from Bali. This is from the Asian Art Museum from San Francisco. Here you can see that Ravana carrying Sita, yet the whole suffering is being depicted very clearly, and Sita is shown bare-breasted. So each of the region has its own way of depicting. But when we see it in the visual art, it has its own way of teaching us with our own idea that we perceive that these things might have happened in such and such way. But when it happens in that of the performance or in the cinema, then the whole idea changes. Okay, and this is from Changeable painting. It's from Kuladeep Singh collection of South Indian painting collection. Once it has been the whole lot of around 300 Tanjavur painting has been there in the Kiranada Museum for 15 days or more. So here the depiction of Ravana changes completely. You can see that usually Ravana is much portrayed as that of the follower of Shaivism, never of a Shakta cult. But here his identification, because both in Valmiki and that of the Kamban, they both clearly mentioned that he came as a Shaivite mendicant begging for alms to Sita. But whereas here, though it is just 100 years back painting, it has to be also noted here that how the variation happens from one artist to the artist and throughout and up to the present day. Okay, now let us see what has been told in Valmiki Rāmāyaṇa in Āranya-kāṇḍa. In Saga 47, the verse 16 clearly says that Ravana lifted Sita, clasping her, and ascended the chariot. And in Saga 50 and the verse 23, Ravana holds Sita passionately to his breast. So these two lines very clearly says that Ravana physically carried Sita. So this is what Valmiki has clearly depicted in his Rāmāyaṇa. And now we are moving into the second part of the depiction, that is Sita not being physically handled. And I've never got any samples from Tamil Nadu, but both the samples are from the Hoysala temple, especially from Karnataka, that Sita is shown being carried with the whole lot of the house. She has never been manhandled by Ravana, because this is how Kamban brings out the particular event. So the particular image is from Amriteshwara temple at Amritapura from Karnataka. And the second one is from Channakeshwar temple, Belur. You can see that at both the images that Ravana carries Sita with the piece of the land and the hut as a whole. Both the images clearly depicts that Ravana never manhandled Sita. Okay, now how Kamba depicts in Rāmāvadaram in the Āranya-kāṇḍam, verse number 3490, Ravana plucked one yajna of the land upon which the cottage was situated and placed it on his chariot. Ravana lifted the cottage with a piece of land and flies away. Sita lay forlorn on the ground of the cottage. So Ravana did not touch Sita. That was clear. Kamba's Rāmāvadaram clearly pinpoints that, that idea. Then this is one of the very famous from translation of Kamba's Rāmāyaṇam, that is Rāmāvadaram. Here I read the translation that then right there in his evil, without touching her, whose ornaments were lovely, remembering the curse that he was never to seize a woman, he dug out a yajna of a earth below, and around her with his strong arms and high as columns, he lifted it on his tall chariot, and the women with the dense bangle, her precious life obscured, fainted away like a lightning fall on the earth. Then he hurried to fly off across the sky. Okay, with the iconographical readings of the earlier images, did we really understand the whole thing? I felt always that just reading only with iconography, it doesn't give me a complete idea of what I want to understand from the particular event of Sita Apakara. But here there are other questions also, because in case of Kamban, he clearly points out that Ravana cannot seize other women because of a curse. this becomes later in the present criteria. Was it the caste or the race, or what was the difference that was making him not to touch Sita? Is it the curse or the caste or the race? That becomes a prominent question in the present criteria in the contemporary questions. Touch. So then after seeing all these things, I just wanted to understand something about what is a touch. Whatever you touch touches you. Touch is always a mutual experience. Touch differs from the other modalities of perception. Touch is a prominent sense of close relationship, such as love and aggression. Absence of touch makes the social boundaries and exclusion. So there are a lot of meanings that we can go on giving for the touch. But today, in the present criteria, touch has another way of seeing since 1 year, the COVID-19, because that's why we are here sitting in the online mode. Otherwise, we would have met, all of us would have had a chance to meet in the Kerala University. So touch has become a very prominent problem these days. And now I want to give you a couple of examples how the Europeans handled the situation, as especially for the moment of touch in the art forms. Okay, this is from Gian Lorenzo Bernini's art, depiction of Pluto and Prosperino. They call this particular thing, sculpture of as Pluto and Prosperino, but in the process, it is called as rape of Prosperino. You can see the whole lot of that is how Pluto being carrying Prosperino, and the image is made in the marble sculpture, especially with that of marble. It is very easy to carve the image much more delicately comparatively than that of what we have, what the Indian artist used, either the granite or the sandstone, different type, red sandstone, different types of stones has been used. So here I just wanted to make one thing very clear. The European artists, especially after the Renaissance period, they were very much vibrant in bringing out the sculptural art forms. Especially, we can see that what is a touch in the stone image. So the artist, especially Bernini, was able to accomplish that the flesh, how much it suffers in the hands of a man, was very clearly shown in the image of Pluto and Prosperino, the rape of Prosperino. The next image, it is once again Bernini's image of Apollo and Daphne, because one, without knowing what is the idea behind the image, I might be thinking that Apollo and Daphne are in romance, but clearly until I understand what is the real meaning behind the sculpture, it is just a mere waste of reading the sculpture without the mythology. That's what it is here, because Apollo falls in love with Daphne, and Daphne wanted to escape from his attitude of viewing her. So Daphne tries to escape away from Apollo, but finally, with no other way, she prays to the god that she should be changed into a tree, but never be caught under the hands of Apollo, even he be a god. So when Apollo touches Daphne, her body changes into a tree. The change of the tree is very clearly, so wherever Apollo tries to touch Daphne, there the body changes into the bark of the tree. And finally, you can see that her fingers blooming out the leaves, and finally the on her foot, the roots come out. So wherever Apollo touches Daphne, she becomes a complete tree when Apollo tries to curdle Daphne. So without knowing the idea behind, the myth behind the image, I felt it is a romantic sculpture. But after reading the myth and that of the image, then it has its own way of giving what we call it as the ethics. The ethics shifts from one way to the other way, from culture to culture, region to region, and similarly between country to country and to the continent to continent. That's what I want to emphasize here, especially because what is cultural? Now I should be recalling relativism and cultural relativism. Now we are going to see some of the clippings from the Rāmāyaṇa serial and from the movies, and that of some of the performance from Southeast Asia. Because clearly I can pinpoint what was happening in that of the particular situation of Sita Apakaran. Rāmāyaṇa TV. Rāmāyaṇa TV serial during 1986-88, directed by Ramanand Sagar. I remember it very clearly that I was a school-going boy by that time, and TV came just into existence. And this is, for example, one of the color serial that I've seen very early in my. By that time, I never felt that I would be working on these iconography or the performance study, but it has given me a chance to recall all my school days even now. This is a movie clipping from Sambūrna Rāmāyaṇam from 1958, directed by K. Somu. So the earlier one was in 80s. Now this is from 50s. By 50s, Sambūrna Rāmāyaṇam in the sense means it should have been a translated version from that of the Telugu to Tamil cinema. Because Sambūrna Rāmāyaṇam is little bit the way the whole story runs. It clearly depicts that of the translation of the Valmiki Rāmāyaṇa, not of that of the Comparative. But in this scene, especially what has happened is not known. That is, did Ravana carry Sita? That becomes once again a question. Now this is from the Rāmāyaṇa ballet from Prambanan, because some 6-7 years before I have been there, though I took the video by myself, it's not very clear. So I've taken it from the YouTube. You can see here that they mentioned that it is the magic circle of Lakshmana Rekha or whatever it be, but the whole circle is earmarked here as Sita's hut, and then the Lakshmana Rekha. One has to read the Southeast Asian versions in order to interpret how they have been doing it. But it is interesting to see that how Ravana carries in the performance. Sita. So it's very much interesting to say that the interlinking or the synchronistic movement between one culture and the other culture, especially, it is the one end of the loose end of the sari being given to Ravana. That once she crosses the line, that it is very clearly shown that there was not a human touch between Ravana and Sita, yet being in the performance, how they do it. Next one from Bali, Indonesia. Here, so here the circle is not made by the light, whereas in Bali we can see that the circle is made, the circle or the hut being made by the artist. They are sitting in the round, and then Sita comes out of the way, and then Ravana pulls her through her sari out. So now this is the most important thing that I just want to stress it between what makes the difference between the Valmiki and the Kamban being very clearly depicted by director Babu in 1971 in Sambhurna Rāmāyaṇa. So this particular clipping might have made it very clear what is the difference between the Valmiki, the first one that is from the TV serial, and that is the original Valmiki, and this one is from the Kamban version. So now, if at all you are trying to reread the sculptural through the performance and the cinema, then it is making a very clear understanding what I have been trying to say between the lines, that what happened in Valmiki and what Kamban was trying to rewrite in Rāmāyaṇa. Okay, now the final touch would be to, especially to say, like, there everybody might be very much aware of the movie directed by Maniratnam in 2010, the Tamil version of Ramanan and the Hindi version of Ravan. So what here Maniratnam was trying to do was completely the same thing that of what is the difference between the Valmiki and that of the Kamban. So in the Ravan Hindi version, Abhishek Bachchan becomes the Ravanan, whereas Ravanan is the Ravan, that is, he is the hero of the movie. And so you can, I just made a comparison between the Ravan and Ravana. So here the question becomes, earlier it is from Valmiki to Rāmāyaṇa, it came to Comparative. But with that of Maniratnam, it is from regionalism towards nationalism. So because the shifting of the why people appreciate Rāmāyaṇa this much in the South and Southeast Asia would be of this reason, because it is, I see it that Ravana and Rama are not two different characters in the present day life of ours, because within us there is the animal and within us there is the God too. Those of specific genders, ethnic groups, subculture, intricacies involved in the creative realms. So I have been working on this Rāmāyaṇa since 1999, and I keep on working on this, and I keep on writing also. But this particular Sita Abhagaran still stays very green in my mind and always, because while I learn and write from different cultures, it gives enough meaning and understanding that it takes a lot of time, because I don't want to be a critic of any culture, but a mere student of artistry, as a mere student of artistry, just being an appreciator here. Thank you.